Welcome back. I owned an investment property in a busy part of East London, which had been empty for a couple of months. The builders had been working in it and were just going over to put a few finishing touches to the kitchen. My builder came into my offices, ashen-faced, saying that there were people already living in the property. I couldn't understand it, so I went over and found a notice in the window stating that squatters had moved in, and if I didn't go through the correct legal procedure, I would be fined up to £10,000 and have to spend up to 6 months in prison. These people had broken into my property and they'd taken up occupancy, and the law was on their side. Wait for this. The law states that I have to allow them to live there in luxury. If I get the electricity or the gas cut off, I can get into trouble. My builder was so angry with them that he turned off the water. But they weren't in the least bit bothered, as they were dirty and unwashed, and they couldn't care less. In fact, he was so cross one day as we had tried to gain access into the property, but they had a wardrobe up against the front door and wouldn't let us in. So he said, OK, if they won't let us in, we won't let them out. So he drilled several large holes and put some huge nails into the front door and screwed them in. The police were immediately called, and luckily they were on my side. And they said to them that as the landlady, I could do whatever I wanted with my own front door. Needless to say, they managed to get some tools and got out quite easily. I had to spend money getting legal advice, filling out forms for the courts, and I even went to court myself to ask for my property back. It took 3 weeks to get a court order giving me the right to my property. But it wasn't that easy, oh no. I had my court order and I fully expected these people to have left my property. No chance. The next step was for me to apply to get the bailiffs out. Another court hearing which would cost another £80 and take at least 2 more weeks. I was so frustrated with it all that I asked a policeman to come with me. I showed him my paperwork from the court and he told me that the law was on their side, but he'd come and try and help anyway. Luckily, he knew the people who were in there. They often squatted in various properties around London. He called out to the leader of the pack, "Fiona, come on out of there. The landlady has the paperwork she needs." He was so helpful, and I was very lucky that they reluctantly came filing out, and I managed to take possession of my property. When I reclaimed my property, it was full of hundreds of syringes that had been used for drugs. I had to get a specialist team out from the council to dispose of all the needles safely. Then I had to have the place fumigated and thoroughly cleaned to make it habitable for an official paying tenant. On another occasion, I had a property that was being renovated and squatters tried to move in. I ended up having the builders live there free of charge to guard the property during the couple of months it was being renovated so that squatters couldn't take occupancy. And then I made sure to get tenants lined up before the builders finished. The disturbing note about all of this is that in this downturn economy, many people are out of work and can't afford to rent your property, which for you as the investor means that your property may sit empty for quite some time before it's occupied by an official tenant. There are a couple of safeguards that I didn't think of at the time that I had those properties. I should have hung up heavy curtains in front of the windows, brought in some lamps and set them up on timers, and maybe installed some security measures like an alarm system or a camera or something that would have made the house a little bit more inaccessible for squatters. It might have saved me a considerable amount of money, time and energy had I thought about these measures at the time that I bought these properties. In hindsight, I would have realised that the draperies and the lamps might have attracted tenants more quickly, and I might have gotten a higher rental because the place looked more inviting and homey. So if you are investing in property that you plan on renting out to strangers, you might want to consider these safeguards as a good investment along with your property. So to summarise, make sure you know the laws in your country regarding tenants and squatters. Put up quality drapes or curtains in the windows, even if the property is not let yet. Put lamps on timers. I had a question from a viewer from last week's show. John H. writes, "I'm looking to get into the investment property business. I just picked up a foreclosure for a very reasonable price. I'm now looking at another foreclosure, but I noticed that there are watermarks on several of the ceilings. And my surveyor is warning me that there could be other damage, and he's advising me not to buy the property. However, right now, I can get that property for half its original purchase price. What do you think I should do? Don't touch it with a barge pole. If your surveyor is telling you not to buy it, listen to him. Some of my very worst buys were when I didn't listen to the professional advice I received. It cost me money, time and energy, and the property that I initially thought was such a bargain turned out to be a lemon. Remember Donald Trump? He said, don't get attached to the deal. Another one will come along and it might be even better. Next week, we'll talk more about the official tenants, the ones who actually pay you to rent your property. See you next week.